What's not to watch? They're the best at what they do, and I'm the best at what I do, and together it's like, it's on.
Is it the best?
Best there ever was. Best there is now, best there ever will be.
And then when I walked down the street, people would have looked and they would have said, there goes Roy Hobbs. The best there ever was in this game.
In case some of you wonder who the best is, they're up here on this plaque on the wall.
You sure you're ready for this?
I'll do my best.
Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and the prom queen.
The best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, episode 4 on a Wednesday night live in our usual spots, going up against actual soccer. But hey, what are you going to do?
It's in the background. The viewers can see it. Spoiler alert.
No, basically what you do is you watch the soccer and you listen to us. People can multitask, right? That's the kind of society
who
we live in.
Who wants to hear MLS announcers anyway?
Well, I mean, that depends on who you're listening to. I happen to like Dave Johnson here in D.C., and that's the guy who I would be listening to if I was watching D.C. United, who I believe is at the moment watching their playoff dreams go down the drain.
Down 1-0 right now to a Kenny Cooper goal of all people.
Yeah, well, losing 1-0 at home to a Kenny Cooper goal, and it was a pretty, give Kenny Cooper credit for the goal, but Brandon McDonald just completely lost him in the box, and I don't know what that was about.
I think Brandon McDonald's actually been pretty serviceable for DC this year, too. It's kind of surprising. He's kind of bounced around a bit, and I think kind of unnecessarily so.
I thought it was a decent trade for them, but it just, when in that moment, when your playoff hopes are on the line, and you're going up against another team that's trying to make the playoffs in their inaugural year, and DC has had this long run of ugly seasons, it'd be nice to kind of,
It's ridiculous how much we have to talk about after just doing a show a couple of days ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, I don't know, today, making up what we're going to talk about, making out the outline, thinking, it's
whatever are we going to talk about? And then all sorts of stuff breaks loose.
Yeah, six things happened today. I think we have to start with what's going on tonight. I mean, we have to be in the moment here. DC United losing 1-0 to Portland in league play. CONCACAF Champions League, there's a game going on as we speak as well. That's Colorado against Santos Laguna. Is that right?
I don't believe it's Santos Laguna. I think it's someone else.
No, I think it is Santos Laguna.
Oh, it is Santos. I apologize. It's 2-0 now.
They're losing 2-0 to Santos Laguna, and that's going to, I'm trying to work out what that means. Santos Laguna is going to win the group. Doesn't matter. Colorado on 7 points. If they lose, they're on. And Metapon and Real España have one match left. So basically, unless those two teams draw, and I don't know what the tie. What's the tiebreaker? Can't tie with España. Okay, well, yeah, España. So if Real España wins against Metapon, they go through as the second place team in the group.
Yeah, basically, Colorado's now at the will of a very unfortunate series of situations. Assuming they're going to lose, and at this point, 2-0 down.
They're not coming back against.
I don't think they have too much chance of coming back.
No, that's unlikely. So I mean,
which is kind of an unfortunate term for a few MLS teams now in the CONCACAF Champions League. I think we're burying the lead a little bit when it comes to CONCACAF Champions League because FC Dallas is out.
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw that coming, especially since they were the ones that broke the streak in Mexico. They went down.
Which is more surprising, FC Dallas out or Toronto FC in?
Wow, that's what that is. That's a little bit of that.
That's a pick your poison.
I think the surprise, the bigger surprise is Toronto FC getting through. I think that's the biggest surprise. I mean, I don't think anybody would have tapped them to go through in that group. I don't know that anybody necessarily would have thought Dallas was a lock. But at the time,
with a team like Pumas, I think you expect them to be one of the two finalists to make the group. And then, given the other competition and the form that FC Dallas was in when they started this round of qualifying, FC Dallas and Pumas should have been the going away favorites. That should have been one of the easiest groups. If not to discredit Toro or anything like that, but still, I think those two teams should have been the two locks to get out of that group. And to see Toronto FC now assured of a spot, it's just really, really surprising.
Toronto FC has 10 points. Obviously, it's a six matches in the group. They have 10 points. Their goal differential is 0 because they have 7 scored for, 7 scored against. But they won that game when it mattered. They scored 3 against Dallas in Dallas, and nobody was there to see that game except for Dirk Nowitzki. But
I know Dirk finally makes it out to SC Dallas game. He even throws a tweet out there that he's going to see what this Breck Shea kid's all about before he goes off to the to the Bundesliga. He gets out there and they just throw up a stinker to Toronto.
As always, we are talking Champions League, but as always, I should mention we are taking calls on a Wednesday. We do that every Wednesday now on the Best Soccer Show. The phone number is 201-430-BEST, 201-430-2378. Or if you're on Skype, we will be on Skype under Best Soccer Show. I just realized something. I'm going to have to fire up the phone lines here in a second. But moving on,
you weren't even signed in?
Yeah, it was, some technical things before the show started. These things happen. I want to ask you about your boys because there's one match left for LA to try to get through in the Champions League. Lay out the scenarios. What's it going to take? I mean, I'm paying attention, but there's so much going on at the moment.
It's with LA. Obviously, they're kind of in a tough situation here. I think most people say that was one of the toughest, if not the tough group, the Group A. And with Morelia and Alajuelense now tied at 12 points across the top, LA has to win to tie both of those teams. The scenario that comes into play is if they win, they get the win against Motagua, the team with 0 points right now in the group. I mean, they're playing. Galaxy going to be playing away in Honduras against Motagua. Motagua is yet to get any points in this group. Galaxy should have a decent chance of winning this game. If they do,
a decent chance, yes. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it'd be. I think it's pretty colossal failure if they don't in this situation, given what's on the line and given the fact they've already clinched the Supporters Shield and they could rest some players and get the lineup that they want, with the exception of Robbie Keane. They can get the exact lineup they want for this game.
Well, Landon Donovan is questionable to start, though, right? I mean,
questionable. They're resting with the intention, I think, of getting him ready for this game. And so, if the Galaxy wins, they'll have 12 points as well. And given the tiebreak scenarios, they would be the first place team and win the group, even though 3 teams are tied at 12.
Okay,
3 teams are tied at 12. They have the tiebreakers.
What's the first tiebreaker?
I don't know. I just know that they have it. That's what I know.
You just heard that they have it.
It's too complicated. I got too much with MLS playoff scenarios and tiebreakers and Champions League scenarios and tiebreakers. It's too much to keep track of.
It's head to head, I'm being told, versus the other teams you're tied with. So, whoever took the most points off of the other teams you're tied with. So, I haven't gone back and looked through round by round.
Here's what it is. LA wins, they're in.
That's all you need to know.
And they're in with first place. And that's all I care about.
No. And that's the way you want it. You want to be able to control your own destiny. And that's the same in the MLS playoffs.
But the interesting thing is, if LA wins and they do win the group, they will most likely be matched up against either Colorado or Toronto, one of the other MLS teams that's most likely going to finish second in the group B or C. So You're probably looking at a first round knockout series against one of the 2 MLS teams.
Okay. You can be drawn
or even
against
Seattle Sounders, because Seattle Sounders are now going to be in second place as well. So it's almost positive to be an MLS team.
You can be drawn against any of the second place teams not in your group, that weren't in your group.
Exactly.
So that would be Seattle if Colorado gets through, or Toronto FC. At this point, if Colorado does not go through, and that depends on the Metapon Real España.
I don't think it's very likely.
But that. And let's knock on wood, but let's assume LA takes care of business. I don't want to jinx your boys or anything, but I'm just gonna say let's assume they take care of business. That puts LA, Toronto, and Seattle into the next round. Am I missing anybody?
Yeah, that's 4 of the 5 MLS teams that qualify. But not a bad run. If you figure only 8 teams total are going to go out and 4 will be from MLS. You got to take that. Obviously, we sneak an extra one into the competition by having Canada qualify as a Canadian team.
It would be 3 out of 5 because both Colorado and FC Dallas would not under my scenario where I'm assuming.
Oh, your scenario, yeah. So because right now, Colorado's technically in until the next game's played.
Right, FC Dallas is done, which, like you said, is a mild surprise. I mean, but at the same time, considering what they've been going through the last couple of months, it didn't shock anybody that they didn't show up. And actually, I had an FC Dallas fan tweet at me today who basically said they played Toronto FC 4 times this year, And, it's going to be difficult to beat the same team 4 times unless you're talking about a gigantic gap in quality. And that's just not the case in MLS. As much as we thought FC Dallas was a better team than Toronto FC, these things shift over the course of a year. There's not much separation in terms of salary. You catch a team at the right time, and it doesn't matter. So, Joao Plata puts in a magnificent performance for Toronto. Nobody shows up to support FC Dallas, which is nothing new. And they're flat. And FC Dallas is just flat. And they had a couple of chances early in that game, which I think would have completely changed the complexion of it. But
we should mention real quick,
credit to Toronto.
Just scored for DC United, so tied 1-1 in DC right now.
Completely changes. I need like a score update sounder. But
I think we're actually scrolling the scores as they happen across the screen somewhere for the live audience if they're watching.
That I believe we are doing that. So if DC can hold on, I mean, obviously they want the win at home. That would put them on, if my updated standings are updated, 41 points, a point ahead of Portland and Chicago, and still behind the Red Bulls. And again, we're talking about controlling your destiny. And in the Champions League, it's LA Galaxy tomorrow night. In MLS, it's New York Red Bulls control their own destiny. And they can kind of not wash away or put all this drama and this terrible year behind them, because it has been a terrible, disappointing year, despite the fact that they're in the last playoff spot. To be the 10th best team in MLS when you have that payroll with those guys is not where you want to be.
No, and I'm glad, and we haven't said this yet, I don't believe, but we have a good guest to come on in the second segment tonight, and is going to talk about New York Red Bulls with us, along with other things. That's going to be Ives Galarcep, going to be on after the break. So we're going to talk plenty of New York, we're going to talk plenty of Eastern Conference, and maybe a little bit of the other big stories that came up as well this week.
Ives Galarcep is going to join us in the next segment. I should have teased that off the top. We're going to talk to Ives about a lot of different things, MLS, maybe some CCL stuff. A couple of rumors that popped up today on Twitter. We were talking about the things that happened today that forced their way into the show. One of those things is a rumor that Fernando Clavijo tweeted and then subsequently took back, and we're going to tease that because I really want to talk about that.
The world of Twitter. I love when the world of Twitter strikes back at guys like over 40. Guys over 40 pushing 50. The Twitter strikes back all the time. Look at Tony Santa. They don't realize the breadth and the importance of their words, and they throw stuff out there like they're talking in an audience of like 5 dudes sharing a beer, and they got fanboys following them. This shit, it just explodes like wildfire.
Yeah, once you put it out there, if anybody pays attention to you at all, and that's impossible if you're a name like Tony Santa or Fernando Clavijo. I mean, we talked about it at the time. I didn't know Tony Santa was on Twitter, but that doesn't mean that 50 guys I know didn't know that Tony Santa was on Twitter, and they retweet, and it spins out of control, and that turned out to be a bunch of nonsense. I mean, I don't know how much you blame Tony Santa if he's repeating a rumor, but his lesson is don't repeat the rumor. If this is the same thing, I didn't really want to go into the details of what Clavijo tweeted today, because I did want to ask Ives about what he thought about those particular possibilities, but we're still talking MLS playoffs, and I want to talk to him about the Red Bulls. We're going to have to do that. We have a call really quick. Who is this?
Hey, it's John Carlton. Thanks for mentioning my tweet on the FC Dallas.
John is the one who told me beating the same team 4 times is very difficult. You got about a minute, John.
No, I'll be quicker than that. I'm not worried about FC Dallas. Jared, you should worry. But I did have a question for Jared. I kind of like barefoot Chardonnay. Does that make me a poser? Or?
It makes you cheap, is what the barefoot Chardonnay
makes you.
There is
nothing wrong with cheap. There is nothing wrong.
You're one step up from a box. You're literally one step up from a box when you drink barefoot Chardonnay. I mean, if you're barefoot Chardonnay, it's probably because you can't afford shoes.
And see, here I was thinking I'd refine my palate, and then I had this the other day. I'm sitting here watching the Rangers. I had this watching the ALCS when the Rangers pounded the Tigers.
Oh, wait. Okay,
and I was like, this is pretty good.
John, let me stop you. You call us up on a Wednesday night live soccer show to ask about wine and tell us that you're watching baseball. No, he's watching baseball. Look, I love you. Thanks for the call, John. We do have to get out of this break so we can talk to Ives.
So more wine talk. That's what the show needs. More wine talk.
Barefoot Chardonnay is a no-go. It's a no-go.
I mean, if you're a baller on a budget, man, you got to have some Chardonnay, and you got to make your lady happy, maybe, but If you've got more than $10 in your pocket, get yourself something nicer than that.
On that note, we got to get out of here. We're going to talk to Ives Galarcep on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network. Back on the best soccer show, Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. It is about that time when you bring in an expert to talk about everything that's going on. CONCACAF Champions League, we covered that. MLS playoffs, we'll talk about that. Some stuff going on tomorrow night in in New York. Wow, in Jersey, that will matter. Ives Galarcep, soccerbyIves.net, and Fox Soccer is on the line. How you doing, Ives?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Not bad. So I got to start with Red Bull and kind of the make or break game that they've got tomorrow night at Red Bull Arena against Philadelphia. Without Thierry Henry, talk about just your thoughts on their chances to pull this off and save their season in a certain sense.
Well, let's see. I think they have a better chance than maybe some people are giving them. I mean, obviously Thierry Henry is a big part of what they do, and he's carried them on several occasions this year. But they're also a team that I think when he's not there, they're forced to kind of move their ball around a little more and keep a little better balance. So I think with him not there, I think you'll see a Red Bulls team that will probably be a little tougher to kind of predict where they're going with the ball, who they're going to try to get the ball to. They still have weapons, so I'd say it's definitely not going to be easy for Philly.
You're talking about the weapons that they have, Ives, and here's the question, though. Who is this a bigger moment for, or who's this a bigger opportunity for? Is this a Luke Rogers moment, or is this Agudelo's moment? Who's the person that's going to step in, and the opportunity is there to really fill in for Thierry Henry in this situation?
Well, I think the player that seems more likely to step up is Luke Rogers. I think he's just someone who's shown this year that he can make players around him better when he's healthy. And he's active. He can set teammates up. He can get into good spots. So I think he really just he's like a spark plug for the attack, which is why he's been starting over Agudelo. I'd say it's a bigger game for Agudelo just because it's his chance to show that that he can do it, that he can get into the starting lineup and he can contribute when he's called upon. He hasn't really done that since the beginning of the year when. Henry was hurt and he had to step up on his own. And I remember him scoring a game winner early in the season in Seattle, and you saw the flashes there. But I think we'll see Rodgers and Agudelo work together and see how it works, because Agudelo is a bit of a strange one as far as him and Rodgers working together. I think Rodgers and Henry obviously were a better fit, but I think the Red Bulls are going to have a good chance tomorrow.
Obviously a big absence in the front line, but towards the back of the team, the Rafa Marquez saga has baffled me, and it looks like he's definitely going to play. He's going to be wearing the armband. I don't understand that. Explain to me what the logic might be from Hans Backe to give the guy that's badmouthed the team. I know he's apologized and all those things, but give him the armband in the most important game of the year.
I'd say that's a baffling one for me too. I mean, maybe it's Hans Backe's way of trying to get Rafa Marquez to step up in a game like this. But at the same time, I just wonder how much respect the team has for him right now. How much they're really going to see him as their leader. Is it more just a symbolic thing to give him the armband? I mean, me personally, I think someone like Joel Lemperre, who's arguably been their MVP this year, is more worthy of the armband. But it's going to be a big game for him as well, for Rafa Marquez, to show that he can play at a high level still. He has that ability. It's just there's been at times it just seemed like he's kind of been going through the motions, and then obviously when he played in the back, he did expose quite a bit, and him and Tim Ream didn't work too well together, because Tim Ream's obviously hit a real dip in confidence, and it's really hurt his play. But it also hurt Marquez, because Marquez is someone who is a bit of a liability defensively. So when you have him as a liability and Tim Ream just playing with no confidence, you've had the issues that they've had.
Now, you can't talk about Marquez getting the armband without talking about the guy that's giving it to him. And Hans Backe has taken his fair share of flack, and deservedly so, for most of the season. Lots of rumors swirling around this man right now. People saying that he's got to be out no matter what. Even if they make the playoffs, nothing short of an MLS Cup might save his job. Then the New York Red Bulls come out this week and give him the dreaded, or I'm not sure, enduring vote of confidence. What should we as MLS fans read from this? Is this something the club has to do at this point? Or do you think that they legitimately think that Backe has done enough to keep him on another year?
Well, me personally, just looking at the year as a whole, I'm not sure he's the guy who should be in the kind of in the crosshairs. I think if there's someone who you can look at who maybe is even more to blame, it's Eric Soler, the general manager. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the background there, and he's really been the driving force behind a lot of it. And it's interesting that he would be the one to kind of come out and say, Hans Backe is going to be back next year. He's our guy. When it's almost as if he's kind of trying to deflect attention away from the fact that maybe he's someone who should be under just as much scrutiny. So,
the vote of confidence that he's gotten doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As much as giving the armband to Marquez, the vote of confidence he's gotten doesn't make a lot of sense either. That's coming from.
They have to say that though. I'm saying if they call for the playoffs, they can't go into coach. They're not back.
Okay, but Ives, the vote of confidence, or it's not really a vote of confidence, but Soler says that Backe is going to stay. That's coming from Austria. That's not Soler's call to make because he could be out. Correct.
Right. I'd say that's the best way to put it. I guess the way he sees it is that he thinks he's safe in his job, and he said he met with folks in Austria recently, and it sounds like he feels he's comfortable with his future there. So with that being the case, he's going to want Hans Backe back. But that being said, it doesn't mean at all that he's going to be back. I mean, for one, you hear these things all the time where coaches get votes of confidence, and then you also have a situation where Eric Soler has said things in the past that didn't necessarily come to light. He's not someone whose track record when it comes to honesty has been the best. So, and like you said, he could be out too. The analogy that came to mind to me is that here he thinks he's completely safe, and then he can end up like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas and walk into the room and see the swordfish on the wall. So I mean, that's still, it could very much be a possibility, especially if they somehow they don't make the playoffs, and someone in Austria starts asking questions about where's all this money going and where's the production.
So I got a question for you. Today, Charlie Davies comes out and maybe it leaked, I think maybe last night, that the $20 million lawsuit being filed in D.C. against the promoter of the club that obviously his fateful night started at, and then also Red Bull being named in that suit as well. So my question is, which is the bigger D.C. Red Bull New York hater move? Aleko's spit take or Davies' $20 million he's trying to get out of Red Bull from D.C.?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I don't know all the details of the lawsuit and what's driving it. And I know, obviously, Charlie Davies took a ton of flack today, especially from readers on my site, and I think pretty much everywhere for even doing this. But I was there for the Aleko game, and I think that bothered Red Bull fans a lot more than this lawsuit.
Well,
I mean, from Davies.
There's got to be some good signs next time those two teams play. There's going to be some great signs in the stadium.
But Eskandarian's celebration happened on the field. This is something different. This is Red Bull doing their party thing. I don't think that has anything to do with the team in the fans' mind. All right, Ives, let's talk playoff. I mean, let's talk MLS awards. I mean, everybody loves to debate who's the MVP. I saw a little bit of you having a back and forth with Brian Strauss today on Twitter. Who's your leading candidate at the moment, and is there any change that you foresee happening this weekend? It seems like it's completely up in the air.
Well, Dwayne DiRosario just put on an amazing performance tonight, and unfortunately for him in DC, they weren't able to get the win they needed. They ended up tied now 1-1 here in DC after a ridiculously crazy last 5 minutes. So I'd say in terms of who's probably got the votes or who's going to get the votes, I think right now Dwayne DiRosario probably has the votes. I wouldn't say he's for me the MVP, because I think for me an MVP is someone who does it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, is consistent, plays at a high level consistently for an entire year. And for me, the player that best epitomizes that is Brad Davis, someone who not only has played at a high level, but also has carried a team. For much of the year. I mean, anyone who's watched Houston this year has seen what he's had to work with and seen how he's driven that attack. Dwayne De Rosario, I'll give him all the credit in the world. He's one of the best players in the history of MLS, without question. Maybe one of the top 3 or 4 in the league's history. And this second half of the season has been one of the best halves of a season in league history. But when you can't ignore the fact that he really didn't in the first half of the season do much. He was traded twice. I think that I don't see how you can ignore that and then just say, okay, he had a really hot run here for a few months and now he's the MVP for an entire season. I just don't agree with that one.
So does Breck Shea lose out then by your rationale then that he wasn't consistent enough all year? Is that what knocks him down and out of the race for you?
I think so. I mean, I think he suffered just from the fact that FC Dallas had a real rut there. The eight match winless streak in all competitions. They really had slide there, and you had to know what was going to happen with Shea that eventually he'd slow down, he'd hit a wall. He was just playing too many games, and it was going to catch up to him. And now he's really not done what he was doing obviously in the first half of the season. So I'd say he's not necessarily someone who's on the short list for me. I think that there's some others. Even someone like David Beckham who's been consistent and at a high level. But a team like LA has so much talent, he probably loses out a bit. You have obviously in Seattle, you have a few candidates like Alonso and Rosales who are really good candidates. Kyle Beckerman at Real Salt Lake. So there are quite a few guys. But for me, Brad Davis, just for what he's been able to do with that team, beginning to end, leading the league and scoring chances created. He's just been good all year, and he's been durable. He's been consistent, and he's really carried that team.
I can't wait for Brad Davis to win MVP, for Klinsmann not to call him up, and for people to have a conniption over that. Let's talk.
That's a good question, though, Jason. Ives, real quick before we move on, what's the bigger left-sided snub for a career then? Todd Donovan or Brad Davis?
From national team.
Well,
for the national team.
Both those guys are having amazing years, best 11 years, and for me, Brad Davis, MVP year. But, success in MLS doesn't necessarily translate to the international level. And when you're talking about Brad Davis, Brad Davis did have his his time with the national team. He did get his call-ups, and I think what needs to be remembered by Davis is it was always an issue with him as far as athleticism, as far as speed and ability to kind of put in the work that it takes to really excel at the international level. And I think he's not gotten any younger. I think what he's doing now is amazing. He's really taken his performances in MLS to a new level this year. But I'm not going to sit here and say that would translate to the international level. I'm not sure it would. And I think the same applies to Todd Donovan. I've known Todd for years, known him really well. One of the nicest guys, greatest guys in the league, and his story is an amazing one when you think about it. His career was in jeopardy at one point just with the injuries that he had up in Toronto. So for him to kind of rebound from that and put together the year he's had has been great, and it's just been an amazing story that needs more attention considering what he's done for LA. But to say that he's going to go out there and play left back on the international level and go up against top teams and top wingers and he's going to be the answer, I'm not sure I agree with that one either. And I think people who even close to him would being honest would probably say the same thing. That doesn't take anything away from the fact that he's been a great player for LA this year. Arguably for me, he's the best 11 player. But people need to realize that just because you're great in MLS, and it does not mean that's going to necessarily translate over.
Those people's names are Jared Dubois. Anyway, let's talk.
I just bring his name up. I'm not saying I'm his biggest fan.
I'm just messing with you. Let's talk playoffs quickly, and then because I want to get to this Fernando Clavijo tweet that happened today. Who's your favorite right now? Is LA kind of a runaway favorite? And if they do take care of business, they should win it. And who's your dark horse?
Well, I'll tell you what. The big question for LA is the injury status of Robbie Keane. I think they definitely look like a clear front runner when Keane arrived and when he showed that he could contribute and he was ready to be an impact striker. But now that he's injured and now that there's questions about just when he's going to come back, it's a real question mark. Are you going to win a title with Chad Barrett and Adam Christman as your forwards?
No.
You got to be realistic there. You have to ask that. So I think the fact that the questions about Robbie Keane definitely make it, for me, a three-horse race when you talk about Seattle and Real Salt Lake. I think those three teams are all in the conversation. Seattle, you have to consider them. with the attack they have, and with Rosales, Montero, and Alonso, those three guys. I mean, three of the best in the league right now. You have to give them a chance. Got Casey Keller, on top form, and looking to go out with a championship. I'd say they're in the mix. And I know some people have maybe written off Real Salt Lake, but I think it's crazy for anyone to think about writing them off now that they have Javier Morales back. They're going to get Kyle Beckerman back. They are going to be right there, and it's going to be an amazing playoff series between them and Seattle. And I'm not sure anyone should necessarily hand LA that title just yet. And one other thing, as far as the East goes, people just are going to assume no one in the East has a chance. But, when you talk about a one-game situation, and if a team like Sporting Kansas City gets into that MLS Cup final, they have the players to win an MLS Cup. So I think it's still pretty wide open.
All right, let's talk about Fernando Clavijo tweeting today and then subsequently deleting it. His tweet referred to it made it sound like he knew that Caleb Porter was going to get the Olympic job, the U23 job, and that Tab Ramos was going to take over U20s, maybe U18s. I can't remember exactly what the tweet said. This bounced around, kind of went crazy. Fernando subsequently deleted it. Who knows why? Maybe because it was rumor and he shouldn't have repeated it, but I don't want to speculate on that. But let's talk about, first of all, have you heard anything directly about U.S. Soccer making decisions in those two jobs?
In terms of confirmation.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Jason broke up a little bit there. But basically, do you have anything that confirms what Clavijo put out today?
Go ahead.
I have yet to get any confirmation on either of the hires that Clavijo alluded to in his tweet today. But I would say that neither one of those hires would surprise me at all. I think Tab Ramos is the under 20 head coach. I think he's kind of been the front runner to get that job. Obviously he stepped in when Thomas Rongen was moved out of there, and obviously his Tab Ramos may not have the track record in professional coaching, but his career as a player speaks for itself, and he's obviously done a lot of work for the past decade or more working on the youth level. So, I don't think that would shock anybody. I think the Caleb Porter appointment, if it happens, would be a little surprising, not because he doesn't deserve it, but just because, when he turned down the DC United job and signed on long-term with Akron, I think people kind of just put him on the side as someone to look for in the future, and no one really saw him as having a new role to look forward to in the near future. But for me, I think he'd be a great candidate for that job.
Now, in terms of Caleb Porter, to also follow up on that, is that job, the Olympic job, enough of a stress that he would have to quit the Akron job, or do you feel that he can do both simultaneously?
Well, I'd say just from what I know or what I've heard about his contract with Akron, if I had to guess, I'd have to imagine he's going to do both. And when you think about what the under 23 job entails, he's going to. They have a qualifying tournament in the spring, which wouldn't necessarily interfere with any of his college duties, and then you would have the Olympics, which he would have to miss preseason with Akron, but I don't see it necessarily being a situation where he has to leave that Akron job, and I don't think it would necessarily be the craziest idea to have a coach, keep a college job, but go on and handle the U23 duties.
So no concerns about whether or not Caleb Porter can handle pros, as Simon Borg was telling you on Twitter today?
Yeah, me and Simon got into it today. Simon Borg got into it on Twitter a little bit. I just completely disagree with any notion that a U23 job coaching the U.S. under-23 national team is somehow this high-pressured job where you have to handle prima donnas. You're not talking about the Italian national team, the Argentine national team, where you're dealing with 21, 22-year-old millionaires who are playing at the top clubs in Europe and have the built-in egos. I think a U.S. under-23 team is obviously going to have pros, but you're talking about a young team that has players who at most have 1 or 2 years professional experience. Obviously with players like Josie Altidore and potentially Josie and Freddie Adu, those guys have much more than that. But I don't know why there's this idea that coaching young American players is suddenly this difficult task that you have to have like Marcelo Lippi come in and coach these guys. I don't buy that at all. I think Caleb Porter is a respected coach. I think his track record speaks for itself. He's produced some of the best young talent to come out of college in the past 3 or 4 years, and he more important than anything is that the style of play that he preaches, the style of play that you see Akron play. That's really what I think most American fans would love to see their
their national teams play. And I think I have to imagine that if he's getting hired because Klinsmann knows that. Jurgen Klinsmann found that out, learned that, and sees a coach who has a bright future. And people need to remember, Jurgen Klinsmann, the biggest move he made in Germany was finding Yogi Löw, a great mind, and putting him in place to succeed. And who knows? Maybe Caleb Porter could be that Yogi Löw. I mean, if the critics in Germany, were like Simon Borg, they would have probably ran the Yogi Löw hire out of the room, or they would have demanded inquiries into why Yogi Löw, at that point unsuccessful coach, was being handed an important job. Maybe this could be that situation. Maybe Klinsmann finds a guy who ultimately helps turn around the national team program.
The best analogy I saw today was, if Coach K can do it with like you said, $20 million athletes, why in what world could Caleb Porter not be able to manage a kid making $40,000 in MLS? I completely agree with you on that. And if Coach K can do it, I'm not saying that Caleb Porter is up to Krzyzewski's repertoire or history or anything like that, but he's a proven track record at the college game, and dealing with professionals is not that much different. So if he can do it, I don't see any reason why Caleb Porter can't.
Right. And what I think people need to realize also is the type of coach Caleb Porter is. I mean, he is while he's been great with young players, he is a disciplinary, not disciplinary, but he's a very disciplined coach. He's a coach who commands respect. I mean, if you've ever been around the guy and you've seen him in sessions, you've seen him on the sideline in games, you realize that he's a very intense individual who commands respect. And there's a reason that he's been successful with young players for as long as he's been successful. So, I don't really think it's going to be an issue. I think the fact that he's worked with the U18 national team in recent years, and he's familiar with quite a few of these players, having coached them there and at Akron. When you talk about guys like Perry Kitchen and Zarek Valentin and Teal Bunbury, all players who are going to be in the Olympic team mix, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. I think if anything, he more than any coach, the other coach that you could bring into that same situation, has built-in ties to the team and the pool that are going to help them make that transition.
That's Ives Galarcep, soccerbyIves.net and Fox Soccer. Thanks for sticking with us through our technical problems, Ives. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, have a good night. All right, with that, it's time to take a break. And when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines that a couple people wanted to get in. It's the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Don't have time to trawl across the internet for all your North American soccer news? Why not watch NASN News Monday to Friday? We'll update you on what's making the headlines in Major League Soccer, the CONCACAF Champions League, and the U.S. national team. We'll also keep you up to date on how American and Canadian players are doing in other professional leagues worldwide, and a whole lot more. Visit nasn.tv/news to see our latest episodes, and make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or YouTube.
Back on the best soccer show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV. And right here, off the top of this final segment on a live Wednesday night show, we got to give big ups to our boys over at Bumpy Pitch, who are now apparently going to have their gear available in Urban Outfitters all over the country, and perhaps in Canada as well. I think, Jared, you got some details on that you're going to share with us?
Yeah, I saw Ben Hooper, owner of Bumpy Pitch, this weekend at the Home Depot Center, and he was letting me know that they got some big things coming out. He told me a couple things we can't talk about just yet, but what we can talk about is that they did get a nice little contract here with Urban Outfitters, and they're going to be in select stores across the country and even one in Canada. Most of them as it happens to be, in MLS markets. I think you can actually you get them in LA, Chicago, New York, Houston, Washington, D.C., Orlando, Florida, Dallas, Philadelphia. All those stores are Urban Outfitters in all those cities. If you're in those cities, hit up Urban Outfitters, get yourself some Bumpy Pitch gear, support when we had we interviewed Ben a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, and he said that his ultimate goal is that eventually people that know nothing about soccer or even know that they're wearing soccer gear would just wear it, that it'd just be commonplace in culture, where it doesn't have to be a soccer brand. It's a brand that happens to be about soccer, So I think them getting into Urban Outfitters is kind of a little bit of a realization of that dream that he talked about with us on the show. So definitely support one of our sponsors. Get out there and get yourself some good gear.
A true American soccer brand, Bumpy Pitch. And as we as we talk about Bumpy Pitch success, we got to talk about Best Soccer Show success. Our debut has been smashing, and it's all down to the people that are listening to this show. We went to #1 on the video podcast list on iTunes for sports. That's pretty amazing to me. That's frankly
especially
stunning.
When you see some of the names that are out there. I mean, not to get too big, or name drop or anything like that, but Pardon the Interruption, Around the Horn. Yeah, I mean, there's some big names out there that were.
We got your number, reality.
Best Soccer Show, at least for a day. For a day. And the funny thing was, it was a week after it debuted, we finally hit #1. So big ups to everyone out there that's listening, downloading, telling a friend. Also available now on Stitcher. You can get us in a number of different places, Apple TV, everywhere you want to get us, you pretty much can. Roku, which I know my man Jason Davis is using now. If you got a Roku box, or you can get one. I think we probably sold a few of those this week off people saying that they wanted to watch the show.
I do believe we did. You mentioned Stitcher. You got to go on iTunes and give us ratings and reviews, and that'll keep us up there. And obviously, half of that is it's nice for us to be up there at the top, and half of it is soccer is at the top, and that gets people interested in soccer, and we want to spread the word. We do have a phone call. You're on the air. Who is this?
This is Caleb.
Hey, Caleb. What's up?
Porter?
I want to shift to the U.S. national team really quickly.
Sure.
Shift gears a little bit. I was curious that center midfield spot next to Bradley kind of seems up for grabs. I was curious if you think Danny Williams has any chance of grabbing that after his moderate to, I don't know, he's pretty decent in the friendly recently. I was curious what you thought about Danny Williams.
We did talk about that with Brian Sciaretta just a little bit last week when we had him on the show. Danny Williams is a central player who has been playing on the wing for the United States.
It's what we do.
Yeah, we move players around. Klinsmann is that guy too. I think there's a decent shot at it. I don't know, because I'm afraid that Klinsmann is too in love with Maurice Sadu, which I don't know where that comes from.
After there's no come on, you're not dumb. I understand the love affair, but
hey, you don't have to convince us, Caleb. You don't have to convince us. I think Caleb, we're on board with you, but for some reason Klinsmann needs some convincing here.
Klinsmann, after the game in which most people said that Maurice Sadu was not effective and didn't play well, was saying that Maurice Sadu was ahead of Michael Bradley in the pecking order, which is boggling to me. And the fact, like you said, you've got a young player. Look, granted, Danny Williams is very young, and maybe that's part of it. At least in Beckerman and Adu and Bradley, you have some experienced options, and they've all been with the national team. Well, Beckerman less so, but certainly Adu and Bradley have been with the national team over the past couple of years. And in that kind of crucial of a spot, maybe that's Klinsmann's thinking, but I really, really hope that we see Danny Williams get a shot in central midfield, because that's his natural position. That's where he's playing in Germany. It makes a lot of sense.
And with Landon Donovan coming back to the team, in his natural spot relating with the U.S. national team, been on the right or left anyway.
You guys completely talked over each other. Let's go with.
I'm sorry.
Let's go with Caleb first, and then we'll let Jared get in.
I would just say, if you had to pick your two starting center mids tomorrow, just two, not advanced, two holding or anything. If you had two center mids to start in the park tomorrow, I guess Bradley, would be an assumption, but who would you choose?
I would say I would choose Bradley, and wow.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean that it gets a little tough.
You
want to
say Danny Williams, but it's such a short audition to base it on.
How about at this point? I mean, I don't know what. I'm sorry, I don't know. I missed the parameters
you
laid out.
Poison.
Hold on, I know you laid out. We did this already. We did this on Sunday. We talked about this spot in this, didn't we? Or what? Or was
you did Beckerman versus people.
Okay. Well, in this spot, if you're talking about if we're going to be pushing for this more attacking minded situation, and we're going to try to go and score some goals rather than sitting back and playing two defensive mids, then maybe it's Sasha Kljestan. I'm not sold on him. Maybe it's Sasha Kljestan. Maybe it's Mikel Diskerud. Maybe it's Benny Feilhaber. We talked about some of these guys as well.
I'm going to go simple. I'm going to keep it simple. I want to see Michael Bradley and Landon Donovan. Let's give Landon Donovan a chance to. He's one of the best passers and best controllers of the ball we have.
Right.
Why not put him in a position where he has options on the wing? We're relying on him to still have speed. And I don't think Landon Donovan has the speed he once had. He's lost a step. And I hate to say it, but he's kind of lost a step. Put him in a position where he can be the Valderrama of the U.S. national team. He doesn't have to run a whole lot, just distribute the ball.
The calls are coming fast and furious. Area code 915. You're on the air. Who's this?
Good night, fellas. It's Robert. I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
First of all, I don't know if you guys managed to watch it, but that game right now, DC United and Timbers, that was a crazy ass game, man.
We heard from Ives that the last 5 minutes was nuts. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it on Match Day Live on my Roku because I'm gonna keep pimping that because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And D-Row puts in the goal for DC, but with a draw at home, I don't think that's gonna do them much good.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, guys, I wanted to ask you a question about my boy Hercules Gomez, man.
Yeah.
What's going on with him? How come Klinsmann's not even calling him up? I read somewhere that he wasn't even getting called up.
There was a story. Thanks for the call. There was a story that Hercules hadn't even talked to Klinsmann, Jared. Look, I can understand that. You're working through your options. You're 5 games into your tenure. You're trying to figure out your player pool. You don't quite know what you got, and you're trying to work pieces around. Maybe that excuses it not calling in Hercules Gomez, but not to even talk to the guy and say, hey, look, I've got my eye on you. I know you're scoring down there. I understand that you're probably a little frustrated. We're working it out. Hang tight, and we'll get to you eventually. At least throw the guy a line or a bone. It doesn't really matter.
I think Klinsmann's as high as our last caller, Robert, sounded like he was, because how do you not at least recognize the efforts of Hercules Gomez? Forget for a second, if you don't think he's good enough, you don't think he's good enough. But statistically, he's doing more than probably any other striker in any league around the world that has an American passport. So why don't you at least tell the guy, hey, an attaboy, that doesn't cost you anything. A little pat on the back doesn't cost you anything.
No.
And it keeps the guy's confidence high and lets him think that maybe there's still a chance. And maybe you don't want to put maybe he's that low on him. Is he that low on Hercules Gomez that he doesn't even want to give him a glimmer of hope? That's dirty.
The international calling rates to Mexico cannot be that expensive. And they have this thing.
I see on Fox Soccer Channel all the time, they have calling cards that are cheap, and a guy tells his little brother how to score a penalty every day.
And there's this thing called Skype, which we're using right now to do our show, that I'm sure Herc has on his laptop in his crib in Mexico. And I'm guessing that Jurgen Klinsmann can throw together real quick on his computer, if he doesn't already have it, Skype the boy up and say, hey, look, we know you're down. That's all you have to do. Just say we know you're down there.
Klinsmann's got enough time to scout young goalkeepers, though, and he didn't have to go far to find one. His own son gets called up to the under-15 national team. Now, I don't hope anyone's out there screaming nepotism or anything like that. But if you're Jurgen Klinsmann, you're one of the greatest strikers that's ever been
and your kid's a goalkeeper
around, and your kid grows up to be a goalkeeper. Isn't that like you're Brad and Angelina's son, and you turn out really ugly?
It's something like that. So we got another call, area code 706. You're on the air. Who's this?
It's Pedro Gomes. How you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, Pedro? MLS Super Sub?
That is me. That is me. I'm also got to pimp out my buddy's website, MLSreserves.com, Luke Bloor.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Good stuff over there.
Thanks. Got a question for you. Just seeing the new international slate that's coming up with all the games we're playing over in Europe, going to France and all that. What do you guys take away from this? I mean, is this something that, I know in the past one of the big gripes about the U.S. team was playing domestically, not really getting that challenge abroad, playing the big teams away from home. I mean,
it has to happen.
Going away
Pedro,
now,
they have to do it.
That's got to help us, right?
Yeah, no, Jared, go ahead. I'll give you a second, but I agree with you, or at least I was thinking about this, Pedro. It's good to go challenge yourself, and I'm fine with playing in Europe. And historically, the United States has been terrible in Europe, and I get going. I just wonder, Jared. This is my issue now: is we're 1 out of 5, right? And it hasn't gone that well. We haven't scored many goals. You're going to go to France. You're going to play France in Paris. You're going to go to Slovenia. That's going to be an emotional game with the rematch aspects from the World Cup last year. If you lose both of them, are you really risking some serious mental effects if you can't find a victory? I mean, what if they lose to France 2-0?
I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone not named Brazil or Argentina in the Western Hemisphere that loses to France will ever have their head down. France is a great team. If you lose to France, oh well. If you get a good result or a good effort, I'm okay with it. Now you lose to Slovenia. No, but I think that's where the risk is.
Slovenia is tough to break down. They're not a bad team. They're certainly better than a lot of people give them credit for. Just like in 2010, my issue is not necessarily losing to those teams and it being a problem because you lost to France or Slovenia. My issue is scheduling them in the first place because you know that those are tough outs. You're not going to just walk into Paris and play France to a stalemate or the chances of a win are fairly slim. I wonder about the confidence.
I'm also okay
like
with it
challenge.
because it's reducing the travel on our best players.
Okay,
making them come all the way over here for games in LA and New York and in Miami. That's a lot to ask of these guys, and I have no problem with it. It saves the legs of those players. It saves the living, the quality of life of those guys. But at the same time, it challenges us. You're not going to beat these teams in Europe unless you play them more. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. And these guys need a player like Breck Shea. He doesn't get the play in these environments. Yeah. If you want these players to be ready for CONCACAF qualifying, they need to play in these environments. Keep playing against partially full stadiums in Miami and New York is not going to get these players ready for qualifying. Yep. They need hostile environments, and they're going to get them in Europe.
All right, thanks for the call, Pedro. Got to move on. A couple of quick hit things that we definitely wanted to touch on. You mentioned Klinsmann's kid as a goalkeeper. That's astonishing. I mean, come on. You're a striker. Why is your kid a goalkeeper? And in the U.S. camp,
maybe he's that arrogant that he just wanted to take shots on the kid all the time growing up, so he just became a goalkeeper.
Or his kid didn't want the comparisons to his dad, which I think is understandable to a certain extent. Number two, we talked about this with Ives Galarcep briefly when you were talking about Red Bull. Charlie Davies' lawsuit, real quick. Is this? I mean, what do you make? Is it a good idea? He's within his rights. I understand that, but is this a good idea? Should he be doing this?
My first reaction to it was really, really cynical. And I think, like, what's this guy doing? That's a terrible PR move and all that. And then Steve Goff put out a really nice little addition to what he was the initial story, where I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of people realize, a little bit of the backstory about that. It turns out, if you believe the statement from Davies' lawyer, he didn't know this girl that was drunk and drove him home. She just basically offered to give him a ride back to the U.S. national team hotel. The guy said yes and gets in the car with what turns out to be a drunk woman. I don't know how much that's believing, but that's definitely changes my perception on the story a little bit, knowing that.
No, it doesn't for me, because you know why? When you go to a club or a bar or a party and you walk, it hits the end of the night, it's last call, everybody's filing out. What do you assume about every single one of those people? You assume they are all smashed beyond belief.
They're ready to hook
all
up.
of them are, yeah, that too. But you assume they're all done. While you're going to search for the straggler because you don't have anybody right now, you assume that she's drunk, and you assume the guy over there is drunk, and you assume every person walking out of a bar at 3 a.m. is drunk. And if you're not, if you're not thinking well enough to figure that out, then you're bombed, and you shouldn't even be getting in. I don't know. I don't think that that's an excuse. I've done dumb things.
There's no win in this for Charlie Davies. That's what I don't think. There's no way for him to come out as the good guy. I don't think in this. Worst case scenario, you look like you're suing someone for your problems. Best case scenario, you win, you get $20 million, and you've passed your problems on to someone else. I don't really see how he wins in this. I understand the obligation maybe to do something about it, but my question is, why can't does U.S. Soccer then get to sue Charlie Davies for the loss of revenue by not making it to the quarterfinals?
That's a little tougher to prove that they would have made the quarterfinals with a healthy Charlie.
It's hard. Prove that he was going to make it to the World Cup team.
Everybody looks bad throwing around lawsuits, and that's my only problem with this. He's within his rights to sue, but it doesn't look great.
That.
Last thing, and I hate to end us on a sour note here, but it looks like Josie Altidore has been dropped at AZ Alkmaar. And I don't really understand. First of all, this
Klinsmann running that team too?
The story came from Brian Sciaretta, who tweeted a link to a story in Dutch. It's not his story. He tweeted a link to a story in Dutch that said that Verbeek was not very happy with Josie Altidore, and I didn't understand. It was in Dutch. And then the resident Dutchman in American soccer, Leander Schalakins, translates it. It basically says that Josie not. What was it? I have it here.
He's not. I'm not
I'm not happy with
technical enough.
Yeah, I'm not happy with his technique. He's not a bad guy, but it takes more than being nice. So Josie Outdoor apparently is a nice guy, but he doesn't have
You know
enough
what it takes?
He's scoring.
You know what it takes? Goals.
He's scoring
and he has
goals.
those.
I don't understand that. He's scoring goals. There's got to be something else here, and now it makes me worried about.
We made a soundbite. His
Josie
goals
Outdoor.
are so good.
Yeah.
And we had to develop a whole soundbite because his goals were so good. How do you not play this player in the Europa League game you have coming up in the next day when he scored 4 goals in the last 3 games? What more does it take?
I'm not sure what's going on there. All right, that's gonna do it for us on a Wednesday night. Thanks to Ives Galarcep, soccerbyives.net, and Fox Soccer for joining us, talking about everything MLS, a little bit of national team. Please go to iTunes. We mentioned that before. If you rate it and review us, it keeps us up there, and that's all great for everybody. Anything else, Jared? I'm missing stuff. Stitcher, go find us there. Blah 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 blah.
We have so many different outlets right now. Check one and you'll find all the others. And just to make sure you support the show more than anything, ratings and reviews on iTunes are huge.
It's
and you guys
lifeblood.
are doing your part. We'll keep trying to do ours.
And we'll be back on Sunday with our next episode. That's it. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois, Best Soccer Show, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, signing off. We'll talk to you later. Bye.